Hello, I'm attorney Bob Roddis, and I'm running for Michigan Supreme Court Justice. The Free Press wants to know, what are the major problems facing the courts? I would say the primary problem facing the courts is that the law schools don't teach, and the judiciary does not know or understand what the Constitution says or means. There is no authority in the Constitution for the federal government to manage or regulate the national economy. Further, the 14th Amendment reestablished that the states exist to protect the liberties of the citizens. Those liberties and rights include private property, freedom of contract, sound money, the right to be free of intrusive searches, and a strict application of the Bill of Rights. Further, the federal government is not authorized to issue paper money or to create an entity such as the Federal Reserve. The Constitution grants Congress the right only to coin money and to determine its value. By allowing the Federal Reserve to create money out of thin air, it creates inflation. That is the sole cause of inflation, and it is the cause of the boom and bust cycle. Abolish the Federal Reserve, and you've abolished inflation and the boom bust cycle. The courts need to strike down all aspects of the Federal Reserve system. The Free Press wants to know, what are the 2 or 3 decisions rendered by the state Supreme Court in the last decade that have had the greatest impact upon Michigan? I would say the first one, slightly outside the 1 decade limitation, was the court's decision in 1999 to essentially eviscerate the Michigan Consumer Protection Act. The Consumer Protection Act had a provision saying that if any particular transaction or conduct was regulated by the state, then that particular type of transaction or conduct would not be subject to the Michigan Consumer Protection Act. What the conservative Republican majority did was reinterpret the law so that any industry that was regulated by the state suddenly became immune totally from the reach of the Consumer Protection Act. That's a preposterous result, and we've been paying for it ever since. Second, the Supreme Court just this year refused to look at a Court of Appeals decision which ruled that the Attorney General's attempt to collect $20 million paid out in Medicaid payments for the drug Vioxx cannot be collected because of a statute which prohibits lawsuits against drug companies for drugs that have been approved by federal regulators, whether the drugs are fraudulent or not. That's a preposterous ruling and should not have been made. The Free Press wants to know, what steps should be taken to reassure the public that judges are impartial? Really, the only way this can happen is for the voters to familiarize themselves with the rulings of the appellate courts. If the voters are not going to do this, and if the voters are going to keep re-electing judges who do not understand the Constitution and who make preposterous rulings, there's really nothing that can be done about it. And finally, describe the test you would apply to decide when to overrule a previous state Supreme Court decision. I would say that's an easy question to answer. Whenever a prior decision was incorrectly decided, it should be overturned. The problem is not that so many prior decisions have been overturned. It is that they've been overturned incorrectly. I'm Bob Roddis. I'm running for Michigan Supreme Court, and I thank the Free Press for giving me this opportunity. Please check out my website at Roddis, R-O-D-D-I-S, for justice.com. Thank you.